What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 7:24. We're a little late for Josh Pate to join the show. Spend a couple segments with us here, talk some college football. Are you getting into the World Cup? Do you care? Are you in? Are you out?
You're asking me if I'm communist, American? Like, I mean, what are you asking me here? Are you questioning my patriotism right here at 7:24 in the morning?
It is. It's on the spot. Yes.
Well, I'm into it, man. I learned that we're playing 11 on 11. I had to start from scratch this World Cup. I always have to start from scratch when the World Cup comes around. I have to remember that the ball is round. I have to remember. Actually, I don't even bother memorizing the positions. But here's what I do know: 3 things: the red, the white, and the blue. You can quote me on that. So yes, I'm into it.
There you go. Are you on board with us that and again, I'm not pointing fingers saying people are bad at their jobs, but the broadcast could be doing a much better job of helping folks like us who have to hit that reset button understand this game, maybe even become bigger fans of this game on a more consistent basis?
Yes. So I said the other day, and I have no idea what the rights are to this and how this actually works, but I said the other day, when we watch ESPN do a national championship game, you have 13 different feeds you can choose from. And it really confuses me that the only feed that you can really choose from for the World Cup is like that feed. There's no secondary feed or even, and you know how rarely I use this word, a tertiary feed where it's just dumbed down for, I'm not going to say idiots, but like soccer idiots. Because that would be what I'd love to watch. Because I got no clue how offsides works. I've got absolutely no clue why it looks like you're allowed to go out of bounds half the time, and it's just play continues. I loosely understand the concept of stoppage time. But I want to know the origins. I want to know why we get past the 90th minute in a game/match. Side note, I need to know what to call that. I need to know why when we get past 90 minutes, we know we've got roughly 3 minutes left, and you're just going to have to feel out when the end of the game is.
Yeah, I feel like the tracking of the time, and I said it earlier in the show, I said I've heard on multiple broadcasts now, the only person who knows how much time is left in this game is the official. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, no, that actually doesn't work for me. But
you got to drop the Hulk Hogan on him. You just got to, at the end of the day, you just got to drop that doesn't work for me, brother.
Absolutely. You kind of went viral with one of your reactions to a John Mateer clip from the Manning Passing Academy. I don't really think we need to focus in on that aspect of it, but are you beginning to utilize some of the video that you saw from him in Thibodeau as to maybe what Oklahoma will be, or have a different opinion on how good this Oklahoma team is going to be this upcoming season?
Okay, first off, you know me well enough to know anytime you see me posting a film study, I'm joking about something. In that case, I was joking about how everybody else had already freaked out about Mateer before I had seen the video. That happens every now and then where something goes viral and I hear about it before I see or hear the thing that they're going crazy about. And that was the Mateer video. So when I finally saw it, I told Jesse, hey, put it on air. I'm just going to sit there and react to it for like 10 seconds. We'll clip it. We'll put it on social, which we did. Actually, what I took away that was more than the video was he did an interview, I think, while he was there, where he was talking about how he felt when he came back from injury last year. Because if you go back to last year, when he missed a few weeks and he came back and his performance dropped off a cliff, they kept saying it had nothing to do with the injury. They kept saying his hand is fully healed, he's fine. And, of course, anybody looking at that was thinking otherwise. Well, I was at least. And so the other day he said, he just detailed what he had to do to change his grip, how it compared to like maybe trying to throw a baseball, but you couldn't put pressure on the fingers to throw the ball. You just kind of had to palm the ball. So anyway, I got high level of play out of him to start the year last year. If I can get that again, yeah, I feel a lot better about Oklahoma. And I also, I just kind of like his overall demeanor. I did last year too. I just think he's a more known commodity this year. But I mean, everybody was talking about the changes in his release point, and he broke down his mechanics and started from scratch. Dude, I'm not a quarterback coach. We'll see.
You don't need to be to see that it ain't that different. I mean, it's still half sidearm. I mean, it's like he's Will Levis 2.0. Deal with it. Make the best of it. Take the ability that he has. Let him run some. Help him make better decisions. Put him in better spots. But I'm kind of with you. A lot of the stuff that people were talking about is I feel like being a little bit exaggerated and actually not going to be overly beneficial in football. Like, you hit the smelling salts, you can front squat a lot. That's great. But like Jim Druckenmiller, Dan Kendra, like we got all these beefy quarterbacks that didn't really work out all that great. Like, help your team win some games, but we need you more accurate and more consistent as a quarterback making better decisions. At the end of the day, that's what's going to help them win more games.
Also at the end of the day, though, people like you are sometimes the worst kinds of people in the world. Hear me out on this. Well, actually, I could end the sentence here, but I will continue. So, listen, back in the day, it's like when I was a kid, it seems like this is what people took great pleasure in allowing to excite them in the summer and in preview magazine season. It was like everything but football. And then football season would deliver the cruel truth, whatever the case may be. But I feel like for a long time it was that. It was hearing these anecdotal stories about, first off, everybody's gained 20 pounds, teams closer together. That still happens today. But watching Mateer front squat, you know what? Somewhere in the back of my mind, I do think that ups his completion percentage on 3rd and 6 plus.
You would.
Down. I love it.
You would think that. You are a meathead, a gym rat, and so yes, for you, wishing you are entering this weekend's World's Strongest Man competition, would think that helps you be a better quarterback. But I'll digress.
I just don't think it made him a worse quarterback. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Where do you have Oklahoma right now in the sort of realm of the SEC heading into this season?
I feel like if you're going in no particular order, if you're going Texas, Georgia, and it feels like most people are going to group Ole Miss up there, maybe behind those two, but up there. That's just what I've looked at so far. So if they're there, I don't have a problem signing off on that. And then you go the Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma group. And at that point, I think you could make an argument to put any of them in any given order. I don't do the thing, like if I'm ranking teams, if you told me turn in my ballot for preseason today, I don't do that thing where I project with my vote. So I'm going to start you ranked where I think you're starting the season. So like with Lane and LSU, I may think they're going to round into form eventually, but I think they're also going to start the season trying to figure things out. Well, I'm not giving them benefit of the doubt on my preseason ballot then if I do it that way. But you can say the same thing about Alabama with the offensive line and quarterback situation. You can say the same thing about all of them. So maybe I end up giving Oklahoma a little bit of benefit of doubt there. But to go back to what we were talking about with Mateer, like, hey, man, what if in the best of perfect worlds he did make these improvements and that's going to mean whatever it means for him? Man, I watch Oklahoma this year, and we're 4 weeks in, and they still can't run the ball. What did it really do for me at the end of the day? Like, what's any different about the ceiling of that team's potential if they still have those same struggles running the ball?
I want to get to you mentioned preseason and kind of rankings and where certain things are, things of that way. Now, this is not your rankings. This is not where you think teams should be. But on the show this week, you attempted to project where you think the preseason AP poll will be. And I feel like a lot of what you hypothesized that would probably be accurate. But you had Georgia at 7. And I would probably agree with you that it's going to be close to there. The problem is, and we debated this on the show yesterday, when you give me Texas, Notre Dame, Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, Miami, I can't definitively tell you that I think all those teams are better than Georgia right now. I think there are 2, maybe 3 of those we could have a fun debate on them being better than Georgia. I say all this to ask, not you personally, But nationally, what's the holdup on Georgia right now? Why are people not coming around on this team? Because I do agree with you that they're not going to be in the preseason top 3. And honestly, Josh, I just don't get it.
Yeah, to me, and I think there's some validity to this, but I can't back it up with data. But I think that people hold Georgia to a different standard in their mind. It's the Georgia standard. So I think that it's because you're so good for so long, when you show the least bit of maybe being off the pace, they don't hold you to the standard of still comparing you to all the other teams in the country. They hold you to, and this Georgia team, yeah, they're good, but they're not 2021 Georgia good. Well, cool. Maybe nobody is. And that's also irrelevant because it's 2026 and you're supposed to be comparing them to Oregon. So I think that's part one. Part two, like regardless of whether you buy into that notion or not, I think people look at them at quarterback and say, hey, if it comes down to it, I'm taking Dante Moore over that dude. I'm taking Arch Manning over that dude. I'm taking Julian Sayin over that dude in a head-to-head matchup. I really think it's that simple. I do not believe for the life of them most AP voters are going to name maybe more than 2 players off of Georgia's 3 levels of their defense, and that's even with a veteran, largely returning defense. I just don't think that the thinking will go that deep on it. I think it's a quarterback thing.
And that's an interesting thought, and one that I feel like I could see where folks are sort of utilizing that to generate where their rankings are going to be. All right, we'll take a quick break, come back. You'll spend some more time with us, and we'll talk about some more of these preseason rankings thoughts. Is that good?
Well, I just settled down on the couch. I'm not moving anytime soon, so why not?
Okay, go pull some more clips of John Mateer doing front squats, and we'll discuss them next right here on Jocks.
The capital of the sports talk nation. This is Jocks 94.5 and JocksFM.com. Birmingham.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:38, Thursday, July 2nd, right here on Jocks. Josh Pate joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Let's run through some of what you also think will be the preseason AP poll. If we were to put Georgia up against some of these teams, if we were to look at some of these teams that may not be in the top 5, in the top 10, like you had LSU at 10, which I understand why people will do that. I would probably push back a little bit on them being there right now. Ole Miss at 9 almost feels egregious to me when you think about they might have the best defensive line. If you're just talking about defensive linemen in the SEC returning, nobody knows that. Nobody cares about that because they don't look into it. But it's debatable that they do. And they have an experienced offensive line with a running back you can lean on and obviously a playmaker at quarterback. Where would you have Ole Miss if you're not projecting this, but you're just thought on maybe the preseason top 10?
I'd have them up there between like 5 and 7. Because I tried to do it coming out of spring, which sounds like 9 years ago, and it was only like a month ago. I think I put them in like the 5, 6, 7 range. I think they're underrated, and I was basing that off of some of the other like really, really early top 25 lists that I had seen. Because I'm with you. I think there's this hesitance in people's minds of like this fear of the unknown of, yeah, we just saw what they did in the playoffs, but that was kind of like a sugar high. You know, that was like the rental car effect. Now it's really Pete's team, and now they got to sustain. And, boy, Trinidad Chambliss can't just magically do that again. Well, this is how I assume that people are going to talk about that team. They talk about it like it's a one-man show, and it's not. Maybe the one name is the one you remember with good reason because the dude was the most dangerous player, I think, that existed in the playoff last year, all things considered. But you just mentioned the supporting cast there. And it may be that people need to watch them. And they do have a big game. It's a really big game against Louisville, by the way, for both teams in week 1 in Nashville. The only downside is it's in Nashville and not on a campus. But I think that once they're reminded that, hey, the lane is gone. But, man, a lot of the people that you saw last year are still here. I think sometimes it just takes a reintroduction to jog some people's minds. But I'd be higher on Ole Miss, I think, than the market will be.
All right, so let's look at some of these other teams. And you look at Texas being 1. How definitive, if the AP has them there, would they be at number 1 for you?
Not at all. And I don't even know. That was my guess. I think you could go Notre Dame 1. I could see Indiana being up there at number 1.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really, really soft projection. I just remember last year, I think they put Texas number 1 preseason last year. That may work against them this year for all I know. But I would just say, if I'm trying to map out how those voters are going to think, ask yourself what it takes to win a national title. Look at Texas. Tell me what they don't have that you listed that it takes, because they'll have pretty much everything. And we always get to these years where kind of everyone knows it's the year. Ohio State 2024 is a perfect example. And you hear that, and they're going to hear it so many times over the next month that it's just going to be drilled into everyone's head that come time to turn your ballot in, I think it's either going to be them or Notre Dame, because the same thing's being said around both of them.
All right, so if we were to go through, like Oregon at 4, I'm okay with. I think defensively they have playmakers back up front. I think they have great skill. We know what Dante Moore is. Some holes on the offensive line and tight end, obviously some pretty big departures there, but I could see them being there. I think Indiana's fine. I do want to ask you a little bit about Ohio State. Are we being overly enamored with a quarterback and a wide receiver, who both are fantastic, by the way? But if we get late in the season, Ohio State offensive line, with multiple playmakers back defensively, and I've gone and watched a little bit of that defense here this offseason recently, and I kind of don't see the next wave of guys that are super scary. And obviously a safety who allowed you to be so many different things on defense that I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to keep being that. Should they be in the top 5?
You know, the pushback I got on Ohio State was they were too low at 5. That was the majority of the pushback. So it's nice for you to balance this out. I had both thoughts in my mind. So I can go down the roads you're going down right there, and that's on one shoulder. Then on the other shoulder, and I don't know if it's the angel or the devil on the other shoulder, but he's telling me, well, it's not just a quarterback and a wide receiver. Bo Jackson's back there, and more dependable backs behind him. So they could easily go ground and pound if they need to, but then the other shoulder says, what do you mean easily? You don't know what the status of this offensive line is. But then I go back to the other shoulder and remembering the feedback I got from them in spring, which is you're going to have some unknowns. Same thing A&M said. You're going to have some unknown names on this offensive line. We really like our depth there. We really like our quality there. We think it'll work itself out. And also, you know, they've got 2 NFL head coach coordinators there. Matt Patricia did great things defensively last year. I think Arthur Smith will offensively this year. But the one thing that I just really struggle to envision is them not being able to run the ball, because I think they'll get that figured out eventually, if not immediately. And it alleviates what Julian's saying has to be asked to do. And then I think it's also reasonable to expect his game to level up a little bit this year. And then on defense, I think they could have the feel of some of these recent Georgia teams where the defensive product is pretty good to really good, but there's no standout player. They don't have anyone on the list of finalists for all the individual defensive awards at the end of the year, but just the level of play is plenty good enough. It's complimentary, and then they're right there. But that's why I didn't go higher than 5, and then I got hated on for not going higher than 5, so whatever.
But this all comes down to something we talked about late last week, and Josh Pate joining us on the Higginbotham hotline, and that is, you know, what's out there that we feel like we want to know, need to know about these teams that we don't, that's going to differentiate them. And that is continuity, leadership, wherewithal, situational awareness, maturity. Those are all the things, Josh, that have absolutely skyrocketed in importance in today's college football because of the lack of depth, because of the lack of time guys have spent around one another, formulating a team basically. And those are the things that help you do that to the next degree. And we don't know that about any of these teams. And so whoever finds that, whoever formulates that, and some of them, you know what, it might be week 7. Some of them, it might be week 3 when they actually find that and take that to the next level. But those are the teams that we're talking about, whether it's BYU, Oklahoma, Miami, Texas, that if they get that, they're going to be where we're talking about. And if they don't, if that's Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, they're going to fall out. So I don't know if you have a way of feeling better about those things with some of these teams than I do, but I sit there and say, yeah, if you find it, awesome. You're going to be one of those teams we're talking about, but I can't sit there and put my finger on any of it for any team right now.
See, I still keep yielding a little bit more towards just getting the right mixture of everything in the blender and then hitting the button, because I understand, just like you do. You just articulated it really well. Like, everyone understands why you would value consistency, continuity, togetherness, returning starters, all that. We thought that for a long time about college football, but then everybody really called themselves beginning to value it once the portal churn started. Well, okay, but then I'm looking in my rearview mirror and I'm asking myself, who had that last year? Clemson and Penn State had it. And they were both preseason top 5. And both of them crashed and burned. So there's this real second edge to that sword of it's great if you got all these guys returning. The trade-off for having all these guys returning is the expectations are clearly defined. And by the way, no one fights the expectation. Like James Franklin last year, he was just very, very blunt in saying, yeah, we got to do it this year. But yes, it's championship or bust. And yeah, that's fair. We've built towards this. It's our time. We got to make it happen. Then when you lose early, it's like the car doesn't go into the ditch. It just goes off a cliff. And it's crazy how quick that can happen.
All right. We need one more break, John. All right. Can you hang out for one more segment? It'll be a short one when we come back.
I've got an appointment at 12:30. So if you can get me out by then, I'm good.
We'll try to squeeze it in. Back with more with Josh Pate next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, 3-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Josh Pate still with us in the Higginbotham hotline. We'll spend one more quick segment with him. I did need to at least get your opinion on, because you've been a voice of reason and also educated voice on everything happening in Washington. It feels like some of this has been put to the back burner, referencing this Cruz-Cantwell bill. There have been different aspects of it now that have come to the forefront that have been discussed in different ways. Where do you think we are on it as we sit here today heading into 4th of July weekend?
Yeah, you asked me at the worst possible time because I have a call about it later. So my several weeks old opinion is they will make every effort to get that thing through ASAP in the Senate. The Senate's not a question for me. I still think the Senate is something that this will pass, I'd say, with relative ease. So I haven't moved off of that. The House, what fascinates me about getting it through the House is there's not automatic congruency between the way it normally is, where, if the Senate passes something with 2/3, 3/4 majority even, then the Senate will just rubber stamp it. That's or the House will rubber stamp it. That's not the way this is right now. I think that there may be some more molding of that bill coming, and maybe molding of the bill at the behest of what the SEC and Big Ten want, which, as I told you 2 or 3 times, was always the way that I think the framers of that bill envisioned it going, if they were ever going to get it across the finish line. Getting it across the finish line in a timely fashion before election season comes up, that's the big question to me. And I think concessions, whether they are or aren't made in the House, that's the next big thing on the frontier to me.
And it is something that obviously is going to change a lot, move a lot, determine a lot. As we head to SEC Media Days, questions you feel like you need answered, want answered, and realistically potentially could get answered by anyone coming through there in Tampa?
Man, the stuff I'm curious about, and I know this is going to shock you, but the stuff I'm curious about, I don't really think I can find out in Tampa. I would love to know things about staff dynamics. You did a really good job talking to DeBoer the other day about, the efforts you go to fix a problem. Because it's really easy to just sit there at a Waffle House in Alabaster and say, man, we got to run the ball better. Well, okay, now figure out how to do it. And so it's bringing people in the building. It's those people bringing their people in the building. It's just turning over every rock. And also, like with Alabama, I think if you really got Kalen DeBoer to go deep on the more philosophical side of it, he's really good at zooming things out and saying, all right, you want to run the ball better? Well, consider this. And talking about a different quarterback allowing you to run the ball better and inserting more elements of RPO into your offense. The different splits you're allowed to play and able to play with your offensive linemen. The ability for your quarterbacks to throw a zipped, deep out 20-yard pass, and what that does to the way a defense is forced to play you, and what that does, therefore, to loosen different run lanes. All that sort of stuff is not really touched on in the preview magazine. It may not be touched on at Media Day, but if someone were to get someone like Kalen DeBoer, for example, to go really deep on that aspect, you could get a fascinating answer. It'd probably be a 10-minute answer, but you could get a really fascinating answer about that stuff.
No, I don't think there's any doubt. When I was watching Oregon the other day, I started thinking it feels like, because I think with Alabama, the mistake we make is, the program's just going to have it figured out. They're just going to have the guys. They're going to have people beat before they play, all that mentality stuff. And I was watching Oregon, and I was like, man, they feel like when I watch them, they're getting closer to sort of being that. How much do you think Dan Lanning can just lean on being what they've been and compete for a national title either this year or the next year or the next year?
I think he can lean on elements of it, but I think he'll be the first one to tell you, you've always got to be growing, you've always got to be improving. The things everyone says, but it's never more true than with Oregon, because you have to start from scratch every year. I'm going to say the same thing about Miami. You do have to start at 0-0, but you also can carry over a lot of principles. And so it's kind of like if you ever climbed Everest and you almost got to the top. You got to start from scratch again. But truthfully, you know how to get almost to the top. It's the little margins. It's the things that you can't screw up in a high-profile matchup against Indiana, for example. Like, that's the kind of thing where you yourself don't know if you've really fixed it and rectified it until you get in the spotlight.
Totally fair. Josh, thanks for the time today, man. Really good stuff, really cool stuff. I loved that projection of the top 25. Just made you think really long and hard about, okay, who should be here, who might be here, and then who's probably going to be here. Let's do it again soon.
I agree. Let's do it again soon. Love you too.
Celebrate 250 this weekend. On the other side, we'll go from the SEC to the Big Ten. A team not being debated in the top 10, Michigan. Brad Galley joins us to discuss next.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.